if I said that right.
Azerbaijan. Yeah, you totally butchered that, but that's we're gonna get you back going. Azerbaijan Baku, which is a country just north of Iran, and I came out as a kid as a refugee in the early '90s. There's these things called the pogroms of Baku, which is persecution against the Armenian people, and me and my family came out here, and yeah, it's been a crazy journey. I moved to Southeast San Diego, which has been very gentrified now. The neighborhood I grew up in, Normal Heights, but back then it was very different. And yeah, I fell in love with hip hop. Got exposed to hip hop. Early on, buying you can get whatever 13 tapes for a penny from the Columbia Music Clearinghouse, and getting the LL Cool J and the Public Enemy and Tribe Called Quest and all that kind of stuff very early on as a kid, and then moved to the North County, which is more suburban. Wanted to kind of switch it up and be a good kid for a change, and got into basketball. And then when basketball didn't work out, which was pretty early on because I'm white and not great at basketball, I started getting really serious about music. That was about high school, and then ever since then, just been consistently putting out mixtapes and albums, and then ended up starting a label because I really just didn't have nobody else to help me with any of the stuff I was trying to do. So I learned enough by just messing around and making mistakes, and I started a label, and learned a lot and still learning a lot and putting out music, and we got some new artists down the line coming out, and it's been really cool. It's an interesting journey. It's definitely not what I expected it to be. Like, I remember in high school doing we used to do this thing called senior exhibition on like what you want to do with the rest of your life. But my senior exhibition was I wanted to be a hip hop artist and run an independent label. So I knew early on what I wanted to do, but it all took longer, took more time, took more effort, energy, all that kind of stuff. So it's been a wild journey, but by the grace of God, I've been full time with this for a little over 2 years now, and gonna keep it going, keep the momentum going.
Man, awesome! Praise God. And we're talking to Ruslan, and he has an amazing story. I looked it up. I read the bio. I thought it was just amazing. And it's funny you bring up the Columbia, all of the stuff you get for the penny, and then if you didn't cancel it, then you end up having a charge. You got charged for opening the CDs you didn't obviously want. But that was a great idea. As long as you kept up with it.
Right. Yeah. As long as you remember to cancel it, you were
right. So, performing for a lot of different acts that you have performed for, Lecrae, Mobb Deep, Wu-Tang Clan, Arrested Development. What was that like, being able to perform with some of those acts, perform for them, and do some open events for them?
Yeah, I mean, I've known Lecrae since like 08, 09, so I've known him a while before he really, that whole thing became what it is now. And so I think with Lecrae, it's been crazy just seeing him explode. And he's always been a really cool guy. He's always been very into the culture and like really up on everything that's going on. And so, that wasn't really that intimidating. This is early on, probably like 2012, 2013, when we used to do a lot of events with him. Which was super cool. We did the Man Up Conference, and we did the Reach Life Institute and House of Blues show with him when they were first transitioning into doing more club shows and stuff like that. And then, that same window, did the Mobb Deep show and Wu-Tang show. So that was wild, just being like in proximity and seeing those guys. Those are tougher crowds. Like I will say that the Christian community is much easier to win over versus like a Mobb Deep crowd or like a Yellow Wolf crowd, or those types of audiences are definitely they're just not as like open. And I'll say honestly, probably the toughest audience to really win over is Merz's audience. I've done quite a few events with Merz, and his crowd is probably the most. They're not there to see openers. They're not there to discover new music, And so I think when you have to figure out how to be in front of those people and not get booed,
right?
It'll do something for your overall development as an artist and your performance and all that kind of stuff. And so Yeah, it's been cool, man. I think all in all, like, it's never a destination; it's the journey, you know. And so I've done and seen some cool things, but I've never been too caught up in any one particular moment, you know, because I know it's an overall process.
Right. It's definitely it's the journey, because a lot of people, even myself, sometimes I think like, man, I want to be doing something here. I want to be making this. I want this to be my career, being able to do talk radio, do sports radio, do interviews and things. But it takes it takes time. Like, look, people forget Lecrae started off, rapping in churches, rapping at UNT, because I'm here in Texas.
Right.
So it takes time to get to that point where you want to be. But I think, like you said, sticking with it, continuing to grind at it, and you'll definitely get there. I think in due time.
Yeah, you know, it's not about who's the best. It's not about who's the most talented. Oftentimes, it's about who's the most hardworking and who's first. Music, entertainment, even, you know, radio broadcasting, a lot of these things have more to do with being first and sticking around while everybody else quits and everybody else falls off, and, you know, the old regime retires and moves on. The people that are first end up doing better. And so, yeah, I've been at it for a long time. I mean, I think Lecrae is a great example. He's been at it. I think Real Talk came out in 2005, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Which is, or maybe even 04. It came out early, like really early. And so it's 2017. So you're talking about a career that's almost a decade and a half long. And now he's at the level that he's at. And so I think a lot of people forget just how much time it takes, especially when you're not taking shortcuts and you're not doing the major label thing and the, you know, I'm going to go into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt and, you know,
Right.
and that's that whole thing. So I think when you have a different path, it's going to take a little bit longer, but that doesn't mean that you can't leverage technology. You can't leverage all the, you know, streaming platforms and music platforms, video platforms that we have now to get yourself in a place where you're making some money, you know, and you're starting to see some profit.
Right, definitely. So what's the key message in your music? And we're talking to Ruslan, great opportunity to get him on the show. But what's the key message in your music that you're trying to, you know, deliver to the listeners?
Yeah, I think that the key message is that, you know, ultimately God has a dream and a purpose for our lives, and that dream is going to be better than anything we can think of on our own. And the more we can move towards being in alignment with God, the easier it is going to be to walk into, you know, that purpose and that fulfillment and that abundant life. And I think in that, it's also, you know, figuring out how to be freed and how to be independent of the projections of other people, the projections of the world, the projection of whatever expectation people are putting on you, and letting all that die and just being who God created you to be. So in a nutshell, I would say that's ultimately the theme of Indie Jones is breaking away from, you know, the stigmas, the stereotypes, the boxes people want to put us into, and just being who God created us to be. And that is a very difficult process in and of itself. And so it's also the idea of just figuring out ways, and I haven't really gotten too deep into this, but I think eventually I will through different platforms, you know, figuring out what are the ways of God. And if we know what the ways of God are, we'll always be able to be in the middle of the will of God.
Right.
And that's ultimately, I want to help inspire, encourage, empower a generation of people that are walking in the will of God by living out his ways in his finances, living out, you know, his ways in our marriages, in our relationships, at our jobs. Like, what does it look like to do these different things? And I think if we honor God in the details, he's going to honor us in the, you know, in the big scheme of things.
All right, man. Preach on, brother. Dropping some nuggets. I hope that people taking notes is listening. So tell everybody about King's Dream. You know, I watched one of the videos that you did on, I think it was on YouTube or Facebook, where you were actually listening to music. Also, you have the King's Dream label, and you're doing a lot of things with King's Dream. So share what that's about and what you do with that.
Yeah, I think because my path has been more unique, I was never able to sign to a record company until eventually I was like, man, I'm going to start my own. And that's what King's Dream is. I talk about the journey on the title track in D. Jones, and it's a way for me to kind of facilitate something that's bigger than myself, like merchandise-wise, other artists. And it was just a way for me to do that and also put out other artists. And so I just signed my newest artist, Jet Trouble, from Dallas, Texas, actually.
Wow.
Super
Shout out.
Yeah, super talented. His video's on the King Stream YouTube. If you go check that out, he's on my latest single, Clock In, which the video for that is on the King Stream YouTube. And super duper talented kid. He's been in California for the past couple months. We finished his record. We're actually literally finalizing the mixes this week, and then he's going to be back in Texas. So we're hoping to really build up Dallas as one of our hubs. So shout out to everybody listening in Texas. It's a beautiful part of the country, beautiful people. I love the Southern hospitality. And yeah, so Jet Trouble's next, and then we have another artist that we're going to announce, I think, in December. Super, super talented. I think with Jet, we wanted to take a different route than what people were expecting from us in terms of the style of music isn't what people would expect from King Stream, having the more lyrical rap stuff. Jet's way more melodic and more commercial. And so we have another artist coming that I think people are really going to be excited about in December. And then, yeah, hopefully just, some touring and some big shows and all these different things in 2018 and keep grinding, man.
I hear you. I'm right there with you. And I commend you for what you're doing, how you're doing it. Also, just speaking into the lives of people that may need help in this industry. And I think that's amazing. I think it's probably one of the hardest industries, I believe, to probably make it in. But if you have someone who has done it and you're able to share that with people, I think that's amazing that you do that.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah, this is it's a cool way to reach people. Definitely, it's an unorthodox way, and people see it and think it's not what it is in terms of just how it appears. It is a lot of work, it is a lot of grind, it is a lot of sacrifice. But all in all, it's a definitely a unique way of reaching different people.
Definitely. So this is a sports show, so I do ask, any artist that comes on, what's your favorite teams? What teams do you follow, if any, or are you really a sports fan at all?
Yeah, I'm a sports fan. I'm a sports fan in the sense, I like to play sports more than I like to watch sports, and that's a cop-out answer for sports fan.
It's all right.
So I play basketball a lot. I've been trying to get back into it. I played in high school, obviously, and so I love playing basketball. I think in terms of who I'm keeping up with, there's a few things I'm watching. I think everything that's happening in the NFL is really interesting right now, and I'm keeping an eye really out of selfish reasons because I got some buddies that play for the Los Angeles Chargers, which just feels weird saying that out loud.
It does.
I'm hoping they come back to San Diego. So I think the Los Angeles Chargers, shout out to my buddy Jeremy Davis, who plays for them. So I keep my eye on what they're doing and just kind of loosely keeping up with the statistics. And then I actually keep an eye on my buddy Bryce Butler, who plays for the Dallas Cowboys. And that's one of my homies from, man, me and him connected when he was, I think, back at SDSU. And then he was at the Raiders, and he's at the Cowboys now. And so, yeah, keep track with him and, staying up on him. And then, yeah, I'm really, really interested to see what's about to happen with the Lakers in the next decade. If LeVar Ball is really going to be able to bring all his kids over there, that would be crazy. And I think that's something the city would need. I love that whole family. I love Lonzo and just how quiet he is, and mellow, and just the extravagance. But I think the dad seems like a really, really, really cool dude that loves his family. And so I'm watching that, man. And so if he is able to bring his entire family, all three of those boys, or even two of those boys, to the Lakers in the next 5-6 years, because Melo is I think 16.
16, yeah.
So it would be at least 3 years, right? So he just pulled him out of public school and is homeschooling him, which is crazy, right? He's already committed to USC. So say he does a year at USC, and say he's 19-20 in the league. That would be really wild to see that in Los Angeles, but I think it could be really cool from a branding standpoint to have all three or even two of those kids on the same team. So those are kind of the things I'm keeping track of. Again, I'm not the guy that like watches every game. You know what I mean? Keeps